A tough end to a special season, but a bright future still awaits. We're going to be talking about it all here coming up in just a moment. Even some movement already going around in the NFL that will affect the Chicago Bears coaching staff. So much to get into. It's CHGO Bears After Dark, and we're putting a bow on this season starting right now. Welcome back to CHGO Bears After Dark. Not a victory Monday, ladies and gentlemen. We've been spoiled with quite a few this year, but nothing wrong with trying to get a little greedy as we needed a couple more to be crowned Super Bowl champions, but not the story for this year, unfortunately. We're going to react to it all and look ahead to things to come. I am your host, Greg Braggs Jr. Alongside me, as always, is Adam Rank, Shayne Marsaw, and Phil Ottochian as the three families come together once again to give you a little bit of therapy. How about it, CHGO Sports and CHGO Bears? We didn't stop the off seasons here, but 3 shows on this day for you to try to recover from a very agonizing and heartbreaking defeat in overtime at the hands of the LA Rams. And Rank, as we start out with you, I mean, obviously you live in the underbelly of the beast, as you live where the LA Ram fans reside. And so we were worried about your well-being and your safety, or maybe the safety of others. So how are you holding up? Is everyone being nice to you out there, or do we have to take a flight and take care of some people?
There was one person who got a little wind in their jaw, and I very distinctly told him, I don't know you like that. And he quickly backed away. It's funny too, because we go to a place in Huntington Beach, so we watch the Bears games every week. It is one of the few places around that has the Bears sound. It's a Bears bar. And everybody knows this. The Bears flag is always flying out front. And we're very identifiable. We're wearing Bears gear. You know who we are. And then the Rams score this first touchdown. And like, where are all the cheers coming from? Like, who you guys are? And nobody's wearing Rams gear. They're just there in their Harbor surfboard T-shirts rooting for the Rams. Every stereotype you would expect from Rams fans is exactly what you would get. Like, you would not have known that they were even football fans. Like, oh, so you're Rams fans. At some point when Tyler Higbee caught a pass, I said, I will let this slide if any of you can name the player that just caught the pass. And then it was dead silence, and then you could hear on the sound, like, Higbee. I'm like, Higbee, okay, what's his first name? Again, dead silence, and then we did not have a problem the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah, and they have been trying to make it a rivalry. I just don't have time for it. It's on social media at the very least, which whatever. We don't have to live online at all times, but it has been funny the last few days having Rams fans show up in my comment section, and I'm just like, guys, I really can't emphasize how much I do not care what you think or what you have to say. Best of luck to you in your endeavors, but the Bears certainly let you off the hook. Phil, I know how much you wear your heart on your sleeve, man. And I was watching. Honestly, I do appreciate you guys, because I could not sleep last night, and we're all trying to purge these emotions out. And I was watching your guys' post-game show, and it helped me get through some things, because there's a lot to compartmentalize. But and as much as we are going to look at the future and how bright it is, you can't help but be frustrated at some of the missed opportunities last night.
Yeah, obviously, a lot of missed opportunities on the Bears, period. I know I say this all the time. It was embedded in me as a coach and as a player The difference between winning and losing is catching and dropping the football. It always comes down to this, whether it be on the defensive side or the offensive side. Yesterday, it reared its head in a form that we haven't seen, with even Loveland dropping balls that needed to be caught. And in these games, those moving the chains and being maniacal with every blade of grass didn't occur for the Chicago Bears. You could put it any way you want to put it, but at the end of the day, the Bears should have won this football game and battled. You had every attribute that you had seen throughout the season show itself in this game. The good, the bad, and the ugly happening on this stage. I just go back, and I'm sorry if I'm jumping into another part of your show, but as a coach, my rule is this, and I want everybody to remember it because, you know, my father taught me this. When you're in the biggest of games and it's 0-0, you always take the points. That is the course that you always take. So it's just, even if it's your first drive, you're going up. That is the area with which I knew at that moment, and this isn't hindsight. Shayne, I probably texted Adam and Shayne, and Greg ignored it, but you kick the football there on that first drive, no matter what. You're at the 21-yard line, and I know the refs did not. They were awful, and they didn't catch. I don't know how you have 8 officials on the field and nobody sees your quarterback get smashed in the face and you throw an interception there on 4th down. But the reality is you should have kicked that. I will stay with that forever because I knew it was going to come back and be a 3-point game. It just felt like that. I'm sorry, but that's
I get it. I get that. And Shayne, I was talking about this with Jerry Azuma last night, right? I feel like we're going to drive ourselves crazy for 10, 15 years with Ben Johnson because he's a great coach. I don't think this is like Jerry's like, well, he's going to learn from this. I was like, I think he's going to do this every time. And it's just going to be a matter of whether they get it done or not. But I don't think his aggressiveness is ever going to stop. So, you know, there's going to be
aggressive later. 0-0, always take. That's the rule. That's all. And I'm not trying to cut Shayne off or you. I just want it to be clear because you got a lot of troll boys.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So
0-0, always take the lead.
Yep.
No matter what. That's what you have to do. If it's your third drive and it's 0-0 and you have an opportunity to kick, you take the 3 points. If it's your first drive, you take it, those points in the playoffs. It's just that needed to happen there. Come away positive.
May I ask a follow-up though? So if you would have gone and it was 3-0 or it would have been 3-7, the next time that you're 4th down, would you have gone for the touchdown there, the one that ended up being a touchdown to DJ Moore, or would you gone for the field goal at that point?
Go for the touchdown. You go on 4th. It's in that 0-0 mark. You can't give away momentum. Mm-hmm. That's what you do. So if you get stopped, now all of a sudden, we stopped them. Now your defense, you start kick the ball. Okay, we came away with.
It would be interesting to see what Santos's input was on that, because they did mention
21.
They did mention on the broadcast how the win was pretty significant down at that end of the end zone. I'm not saying that I have any information on that, but I would be interested to know what the I mean, a very experienced kicker, so you put him out there. I tend to agree with you, but we've heard Ben Johnson all season long say over and over and over, I'm never going to apologize for being aggressive. It's who he is. And the part of me that does like that is it's not the fake aggressiveness like Matt Nagy, who wanted to beat it into your head that he was aggressive. And then when it got to 4th down, the play clock would run out because he was trying to decide, you know, from his big bag of tricks what he was going to do, and he had no idea. Ben is going to auto default to being aggressive. It's who he is. He's never going to change with it. Maybe to Phil's point, in the first possession of a game like that, in a playoff game. But how about this? Rome, you're a top 10 pick. Catch the damn ball on third down, and it's a moot point. It's that simple. Catch the ball, and you don't even have to worry about it. There's your momentum. You're a top 10 pick. You have not showed that in a long, long time. Even when he was healthy, Rome Odunze was having issues this season holding on to the football. It's a big, big problem, and it has to be priority number one in Rome Odunze's life in this offseason moving forward.
Well, and that's the thing, Adam. You know, I know you follow it just as close as I do in terms of the narratives that will, be out there for the Bears that have been going on this season. And now, people kind of sharpening their knives of what the narrative will be this offseason as everyone tries to predetermine what next year's Bears team will be. And so in that regard, whether it's the drops or the injuries they've had or the inconsistent play on offense or the lack of pass rush, I guess my question to you is, with knowing all the things that they need to get better here in the offseason, what would you say to fans that believe that this team will be an outlier, that next year they will fall back to regress to the mean? And just like many one-year wonder Bears teams have passed, this one will fall in line with those. What would you say to fans that are suggesting that will be the future of the Bears?
Well, that's what a lot of people thought was going to happen to the Detroit Lions the first time they won the NFC North with Dan Campbell. They're like, well, this team's going to regress. There's no way that they're going to win a second consecutive NFC North title, which they did. They went out there and they won it. And I would even point to this year's Denver Broncos team, another one that barely scraped by to get into the playoffs. And then they go out there and not only win their division, they're the number one seed. So one of the things that I'm probably the most encouraged by is that you saw it lay before you on Sunday night, how the Bears were aggressive in the draft and in free agency in approaching the offensive side of the football. And Mike Tirico even mentioned this too, is like when Dennis Allen was hired, you're like, bro, you're not getting any help. You've got to go out there and make do with what is out there. There was no help arriving. This is what you have. Now the Bears have an opportunity to go out there and use the resources at their disposal to address some of the deficiencies on the defensive side of the football. I don't believe we will make a deal for Myles Garrett or Max Crosby, but something very similar to the Tooney trade I could see happening on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm not saying it's Cam Jordan, but somebody like that, like somebody, a veteran player on a team that you could get for a fourth round pick, get in here to come in and give you some quality minutes using one of those draft picks, probably all the draft picks on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm actually encouraged and feel like what we overachieved at winning these miracle games, I don't think we're going to be in a position next season where we're going to have to do that, which should help fight off the regression.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I've had people bring up to me, I brought it up on last night's show, you say the Joe Tooney trade, maybe it's from that same team, and Chris Jones. Shayne, I think maybe you might have been the one to bring it up to me. I can't, the conversations.
He tried to say it while he was talking, but he was muted. I could read his lips.
I'm trying to make it so everybody doesn't hear the kids going crazy upstairs. But yeah,
they're watching the replay of the game.
Yeah, if you do a post June 1st designation in terms of a trade with Chris Jones in Kansas City, they're going to save about $35 million on the cap, and they are significantly over the cap at this point. So they're going to have to make some moves. And I'm not, listen, Chris Jones is an elite level player still at this point. But, at this same time frame last year, we didn't think they would be walking away with Joe Tooney.
Yeah.
Either.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, Phil. I mean, Chicago has been waiting for a quarterback like this. And I know all of us have been on the front lines, but especially you guys, when it comes to trying to get Bears fans who certainly were stubborn at times in the evaluation draft process of Caleb Williams. Should we draft him? Obviously that transition from Justin Fields to Caleb wasn't the easiest for some fans, and the loyalty that this city shows. Well, then after last night and Caleb Williams walking into the tunnel, I was so proud of Bears fans, the way they gave the team a standing ovation, gave Caleb a standing ovation as they left the field. That I think was just one of the more powerful moments in Chicago Bears fan history. And I think you're now seeing a city wrapping their arms around a quarterback after the undeniable clutch playmaking that he has had this season, especially in these playoffs. And, his comparisons to Patrick Mahomes coming out, of the draft and people scoffing at that. I think a lot of people got shut up here, especially in the last month. And now what Patrick Mahomes has had to win Super Bowls consistently, to make the playoffs consistently, to be in the AFC Championship every year until this year was a defense that was dominant, right? And so I think, Phil, right, like if they want to get to, as Reuben Brown used to call it, Space Mountain, they have to take this defense to a whole nother level.
Yeah, defense wins championships. That's the reality. You have to have the foundation of the coach and the quarterback to build that defense, and it's an unknown offseason. I have not been a big fan of Ryan Poles. Everybody knows where I stand with how he assesses what I call the dog mentality. I feel like there's been a lot of fake dogs, especially with his defensive selections. Obviously, Javon Dexter, you can go down the list of them. I just don't, on the defensive line, that is, I don't see, I get nervous about that. But when you add a Ben Johnson and a Dennis Allen, and you have this kind of functioning difference with the owner, because I want to give George some credit here with the blue uniforms and the swearing and stopping this small-minded mom and pop shop thinking in regards to the charter franchise. And I use the example of George Halas himself would not be hired by the McCaskies. That's a problem. So once George transitioned into, we need to be relevant, and you get this coach here who is maniacal, who is what we're talking about now, that has to go into free agency and the draft. There's nobody off the table. Max Crosby on the table. Myles Garrett on the table. You have to have that generational defensive talent to go along with that quarterback that you had, because yes, we were right. Caleb is him. He's probably the best quarterback in the league at critical moments, and his talent and where his ceiling is. It's everything I said it was. And it's great to see it play out. It's so that fingernails on the chalkboard of DJ Moore, not running that route, because the story would have continued, because that ball that he throws, Greg, is a dime in this Ben Johnson offense. It's anticipation to the route. So the quarterback knows where you're going based on the coverage to the route. I know I'm going another tangent.
Let's break it there, and let's take our first time out. Adam, if you need to leave now, you can, but if not, we'll hang on.
What does that mean? I want to follow up with what Phil's saying.
Well, then let me set you up.
I have a couple of questions. We'll do it when we come back.
Yeah, let's do that when we come back. Wasn't sure exactly where your time slot is. I know you got to leave here at the bottom of the hour, so we'll make sure we respect your schedule in that
I'll
regard.
leave it like a quarter till. It's fine.
Okay, that sounds good. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate everybody hanging out. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and give some love to these three fine gentlemen who have just done an amazing job here this season, supporting CHGO Bears and CHGO Sports, coming on After Dark every Monday night, win or lose. And here we are putting a wrap on a special season. So don't go away. 2 minutes. And then when we come back, we'll hear what Adam Rank has to say here in this regard. Want to give a shout out to our good friends over at Four Seasons. Winter is here, and it has been relentless this year for a couple months now. And if you have a plumbing emergency, or you have an electrical emergency, or you need a new hot water tank installed today, you're going to call Four Seasons. Now is the time to schedule your Four Seasons furnace tune-up. And if you're thinking about a whole home generator, they have you covered. Nothing better to be the envy of the neighborhood when you've got a whole home generator. The power goes out this time of year, but your house is still operating on all cylinders because of the good people over at Four Seasons. And they're going to help you save up to $4,000 on furnaces and comfort systems because they are your trusted local experts that have been serving Chicagoland for over 50 years. So visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com, and tell them CHGO Bears sent you, as well as our good friend here, Ray Scarpelli, who's always been in our corner here at CHGO Sports. I know he's wearing this Bears season hard as the diehard Bears fan that he is, but he's going to help you ring in the new year at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake with hot deals all month long during their Ray Resolution sales event. So stop in today and drive home with 0% financing for 72 months plus no payments until spring on all new Chevrolet models, or check out their selection with over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. It's one of the largest Chevy inventories in Chicagoland, and they are going to help you with the raised price promise to help you shop confidently, because the price you see is the price you pay. So go see for yourself and visit our partner at the convenient location right on Route 12 in Fox Lake. Shop Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or at raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive. All right, we are back here on CHGO Bears After Dark. And so let's get right back into it. Adam, you said you had a rebuttal or a question.
No. I just wanted a couple of follow-ups because I agree with a lot of the points that Phil is making, but I want to say though, this season, this past draft, Colston Loveland, great, good pick, dog. Is that like
Absolutely.
So when you look at like Colston Loveland, Trapillo, I would say Luther Burden III, Kyle Monungai, like he did a really nice job of this. And I don't know if that's like you got rid of Eberflus and you got Ben Johnson. So I think like that's where I would bring in a little bit more confidence of like, okay, well, the guys that he drafts this year will hopefully, because Ben Johnson will have input on it like he did last season, that we're going to get more hits than misses. So which is why I'm a little bit excited about that. But secondly, when you're talking about that throw, I've been told for 2 years that Caleb Williams can't throw with anticipation. Are those people, are they still around? Like I honestly, outside of the people who I've noticed now that, you know, all the criticisms of Caleb Williams are now boiled down to his fingernails and his clothing. Have we shut the door on like he's a good quarterback? Like are we all now at the consensus that he's a good quarterback, regardless of how you feel about his fashion choices? But we can all agree he's a good quarterback now, right?
Well, I think the narratives will be twisted, right? And the way this season ended, and 5 interceptions in 2 playoff games for Caleb Williams, I think for his detractors will be the point to what people try to.
But that's what everybody wanted. They wanted him to throw more picks. That's what everybody's been. He wasn't going to be a good quarterback until he threw more picks. So now he must be awesome.
Right. So I mean, yeah, Shayne. I mean, it's like, it kind of is what it is. People are going to try to twist it however they want, but it's hard to deny where this is when we talk about the bright future. And we, obviously spent a lot of time focusing on just how great of a head coach Ben Johnson is and how great this coaching staff has been, which is going to have some changes this year. And we'll get to that here in a little bit. But I mean, I also think when you hear Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker and some different people in the locker room today, they want to stay around because they're like, Caleb Williams has this city at the palm of his hands.
Yeah. I mean, Brisker played his 2 best games as a Bear consecutively. I would venture to say, but listen, when you're talking about the haters with Caleb Williams, I touched on this a couple of shows ago, and what it comes down to is you could say whatever you want about Rex Grossman, about Mitch, about Justin, all of that. Everybody knew that there was major flaws in each of their games, and everybody knew that there was major issues. There was never the top flight talent that we never saw. I mean, the NFL put out an official highlight film of Caleb Williams today, and it's almost an hour long. CJ Stroud's is 32 minutes. I look
How
at
did
that
they?
stuff.
How?
Yeah, exactly. Well,
was it him sunning quarterbacks for 32 minutes?
Well, did you see how much he developed yesterday with those four first half interceptions? That's what.
Well, I mean, I think probably 15 minutes of it is him trying to throw into a net at training camp.
Yeah, but that's my point. The reason that people like Peter Bukowski and people like that are so violent when it comes to Caleb Williams, because deep down inside, they know that it's not Rex, that it's not Mitch, that it's not Justin. They know that Caleb with Ben they're going to be a problem. They're not going away. This isn't a one-hit wonder type thing. That's why they're so adamant about how terrible he is. I mean, Bukowski sent out a tweet immediately last night calling it a horrific throw by Caleb, the last interception. And then you see how that plays out. All that is, that's not an analyst. That's a fanboy reaction. Yeah. That's a Bears hater reaction.
Right.
That's all that is.
Right. Especially when you pride yourself on being the guy that is going to have that balanced, an analytical or tape, opinion. And then you're going to come out there and say that Kurt Warner called it out right away in terms of,
Collinsworth called it out live on air.
Collinsworth, right. That was the moment I was like, all right, Chris, that's a step in the right. Be authentic.
Chris loves Caleb.
Chris did a 180 on Caleb as soon as because he must have heard all the pushback in regards to what he was saying in the first Sunday night or whatever broadcast they did. He was he's wide open. He should have hit that easily. No, Chris, there's 2 free runs at him and he's running to his right, trying to throw over the top of that. I bet it's a moment with his producer. You're going to be enemy number 1 with that kind of.
Well,
I will say, let me just say one thing. As somebody who is friends with Chris Collinsworth, who's worked with him in the past, there's a guy that is willing to go back and study what he does and realize when he makes a mistake. I worked with him years ago. Remember the Giants 49ers playoff game where it was a bumbled snap and the guy should have spiked it. And initially in the broadcast, Chris was like, he should have spiked it. He said something. I forget what it was. When I called him to go do his column the next day, he's like, Adam, he's like, I was so wrong. Can we write how wrong I was? And like, he will really go back and take a look at that and do. I truly believe that when he went back and looked at what was going on against San Francisco, he was impressed because he showed up last night. And I don't think it was because of the Bears fans, because he literally doesn't care. But I think he learned and he was like, oh my God, that was actually way better than I thought in the moment. And he will go back and recognize it. And I think that I couldn't have been prouder that he was defending Caleb on that throw. Cause everybody, even my friend I don't want to call him a Rams fan because he was a football free agent for so long because there was no team out here. But even he was like, geez, he's like, DJ Moore blew that, right? And I'm like, yeah, that was it. But yeah, Chris was on it. I'm sorry. I know he's a lightning rod and everybody likes to poke fun at him, but I thought that Chris did a really nice job.
Well, and I when we talk about, analysts that are from the other side of the tracks, I thought Ben Kurt, former quarterback of the Packers, I thought he said it really well. And this is a guy that maybe the last couple of years I was like, I don't really like this dude. And honestly, I feel like when you talk about improving, I think his analysis has gotten better and a little more straight lined. And Kurt said this about the Bears last night, said, on the bright side, the Bears will never be as lucky as they were this year. Unfortunately, they're probably only going to get better and won't need as much luck. And I thought that was really well said. Like, I think that's kind of the point that I try to make to people that say that this team is an outlier and that, how they won isn't sustainable. Yeah, of course. I think we all understand how unique this season was. I think they will always show, I think this team will always have an identity of never quitting, and you have a quarterback that can make clutch plays. So I don't think this will be the last time we see heroics, but to expect it 8, 9, 10 times in a season is unrealistic. But what's also unrealistic is that other side of the coin and the expectation that this team is going to get worse when it clearly you can see how many things they need to get better at. It'd be one thing if you looked at this team and you said, well, there is no room to get better. They played at their fullest potential. They're the 15-2 Vikings of last year. Like, you couldn't play any better. That's not the case for this team. Did they have a lot of things go their way? Sure. Jaden Daniels fumbling the ball miraculously at the end of the game, a blocked field goal or a missed onside kick. Those things don't always happen, especially in a sequence of 7-8 games in a regular season. That being said, I also don't think you can bank on this pass rush being any worse. The amount of injuries this team sustained getting even worse than that when they led the league in missed games for starters. It's going to be unrealistic to expect this offense in their first year under Ben Johnson to regress when now Ben has a full offseason of tape to look at with the team that he built, as opposed to last offseason as he's, piecemealing a roster together. So I just think there's so many points that you can make. And I thought Kurt really, really highlighted that well.
Former Green Bay Packer wide receiver friend of Adam Rank, I thought, did a great job. James. He put it into perspective, and I thought he spoke eloquently. He's like, guys, you can say what you want, but this is the worst they're going to be. Right. So that is a scary thing for everybody in the league. And anybody trying to say anything about Caleb Williams, that he couldn't do what he did in college, and yet he does it every single week, stop. You're just a hater.
Somebody put the stat out there, Phil, that they were -19 in point differential in the first 3 quarters on the whole season, playoffs included. And so the fact that they won 12 games, 1 playoff game, they won the NFC North. Like, Shayne, I mean, the fact that they were able to do that while essentially being dominated in 3 of the 4 quarters of these games this season is, to Phil's point, of James Jones saying, like, you couldn't beat them this year. They're going to be a lot tougher to beat here moving forward.
100%. And what it all starts with, the 2 most important people that we've been banging the drum for decades as Bears fans. You got to bring in the correct leader at head coach, and you got to find a quarterback. And after those 2, everything else seems to fall in place. And that's where we are. And I know this is kind of off topic a little bit, but I've maintained this the entire time, and I'm a huge believer in Ben Johnson. But I think Ben's going to have his coming to Jesus moment when he gets to the offseason and he's going back through this season. He's going to see a shift in this Chicago Bears football team that I've maintained since Thanksgiving. The Chicago Bears went on the road in Philadelphia, and they out-physicaled the bullies in Philadelphia like we haven't seen in a long, long time. And they never went back to it after that. They never did.
Right.
Everything changed in terms of how he directed his offense. And you got to be able to rely on some bully ball. And try to out physical the other guy. And I think that's a big part of what Ben Johnson's offense in Detroit, when they were winning, that's what they did. And we all know that Ben is a 4D chess player, and he's thinking ahead. There's going to be players on this team that we believe in. We're probably going to be shocked at some of the people that are going to be moved on from, because Ben he's been here for a season, and it's not exactly what he wants, and they're going to move on from some people at positions that we're really not expecting to bring in his guys. And they're going to get back to that. And that in and of itself is only going to make the offense better. It's going to make Caleb Williams better, and it's going to make your defense better.
Yeah, it's interesting, Adam. And I agree 100% with you, Shayne, on in terms of the physical identity. Drew Dahlman said that they found that identity this season through details and physicality and execution. But I agree. I did push back today as well on the fact that since that Eagles game, I thought some of that physicality was lost on them. That being said, Adam, when you look at it, and I know from your living in that fantasy world of fantasy football of how to identify who to pick up. Well, the Bears still finished the league second in rushing, and what an amazing job for Ben Johnson, this offensive line, Eric Bieniemy, Dan Rochar, to take a unit that, or at least a part of the aspect of the offense of a lot of fans had questions in. You have DeAndre Swift, a guy that, the Lions moved on from when Ben was there, and you had Kyle Monunga as a 7th round pick. And there's so much of the offseason was talking about, will they bring in Nick Chubb? Will they, and yet they were able to take what they had and turn that into the second best rushing offense in football. That being said, I was talking about this on our, spaces. I'm famously on Twitter Spaces all the time. My guy Joey brought this up. Ben is such an explosives guy. He wants to dial up the explosives. The longest run they had all season, while being the second best team in rushing in the NFL, 38 yards was their longest run. Yeah. And so it's clear that while he's going to get production out of the run game, but in Jahmyr Gibbs, don't grow on trees. You're not just gonna, and I know a lot of, I'm a Notre Dame football fan, and Jeremiah Love is outstanding. He ain't making it to 25. But, do you think that the Bears need to try to identify somebody that is a home run hitter for that running game on the offense?
It's funny. We were talking about that yesterday, sitting around our group who was watching the game and being like, when was the last time we had one of those breakout runs where you're just like, oh my God, he's through the hole and gone? Because we kept, especially on that final drive that ended up being the final drive of the season.
Terrible.
That's Caleb. Like, that's who it was. And it's like, gosh, we really need we need that one guy who's going to squirt through that line and then be gone. And it would be nice because Kyle Monunga obviously has a great identity in what he does, and he's going to be around for a long time. But as much as we love DeAndre Swift, and again, when you're talking about surprises of like, oh, I can't believe we got rid of this player because he had 1,000 yards last season, but I could see somebody who might fit the profile more of a Jahmyr Gibbs being somebody that they go out and seek. And that might actually be the thing, like when the world will melt down in April because we do not take a pass rusher because we've traded up to take a running back or something like that. We still might do that. And it's one of those things. So
let's just keep the camera on Phil when the Bears do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that, Adam. I got a running back for you. He plays in Seattle. That's your running back of the Bears coming forward.
Which one? Kenny Walker?
Oh, yeah.
Kenneth
He's
Walker?
a free agent, but they also have $70+ million available in cap space.
But that guy would be the guy that I would identify, because what he does is what Ben wants, and that's physical explosion. And he can catch the ball. He's swift with power and impact on a level. I mean, it was almost like a benefit that the other back got hurt, that he had to be more of the offense. That's ridiculous to me. But not
Zach Charbonnet. Well, I know, Adam, you said you got to get going. I know you got a couple more shows you still have to knock out before the national championship gets rolling. So
is that tonight?
Yeah, that's tonight. I think a lot of people don't feel like they need to tune in because Indiana's just going to run away with it. But we shall see.
Not so fast, my friend.
We shall see. Obviously, I'm from the great state of Indiana. Not necessarily rooting for Indiana, but as I told my friend who's a diehard IU fan, I go, I'm not rooting against them either. So we'll see how that breaks down. It's certainly been an incredible story, and Curt Cignetti is a lot of fun to listen to as a coach. He's pretty funny.
Living out here in Big Ten country,
Yeah.
I suppose I have to support Indiana now.
Yeah, that's
Jeez.
right.
It's
That's
still
right.
weird to me, like looking at basketball scores and being like, why is UCLA playing Ohio State in the middle of this? Like, oh, that's
Well,
right.
my Purdue Boilermakers are out there right now on the West Coast trip. Beat USC and they got UCLA here in a couple of days. But Adam, any final thoughts before you take off, or a message to Bears fans in terms of a great season? But obviously, we're all wearing it pretty hard here today.
No, and that's what I said. I went full Ted Lasso last night and just was letting everybody know, like, it's okay to be disappointed. I think that one of the things that we get caught up in, it's very easy to sit here and be happy with the fact that, not only did we, have a winning season, we made the playoffs, we won the division, we won a game. It's fine to look back and say, like, hey, we accomplished so much this year, but at the same time realize we were so close to getting to the NFC Championship game with a good, I really would have felt confident going into Seattle as well, getting an opportunity against that team, which I think is very good, but I think the Bears are there. But I think as we start moving forward over the next couple of days, and we start putting this loss behind us, I think we're going to see a lot of positives and a lot of good things coming up throughout the offseason. So there's a lot to be excited about. So go ahead, wear this one right now, but realize that there are better days ahead. And as everybody sits there and talks about regression, you know that they're only saying that because they're scared. So thanks to everybody for joining us here on CHGO and all of our other platforms. I'm sure that everybody who is here follows me on the YouTube channel for the Sick Podcast as well. But still, I want to thank everybody, and I want to thank Greg for hosting us on Monday nights, because this has been a lot of fun.
Well, it's obviously the pleasure is all mine, and we appreciate you very much. So, but we're not stopping. The content never sleeps in terms of everything we do, from Tape Never Lies Network to the Sick Podcast to CHGO Sports. So football is 365 days a year, and we will continue that trend on. So that being said, we're going to let Adam take off, and when we come back, we'll give you some updates on some of the coaching moves that have gone around that impact the NFC North and the Chicago Bears. And then I will task Phil and Shayne to look at some of the bigger decisions here coming up and give some early prognostications on some tough decisions that Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles will have to make here coming up very soon. So don't go away, 2 minutes. And when we come back, we'll have that discussion. Hey guys, want to give everyone a quick reminder that today is the best time to become a diehard. Yes, the season is over, but that means the off season has begun, and we take no days off with CHGO Bears coverage or any of the sports for CHGO Sports. But if you become a diehard, head to allchgo.com/diehard. You get exclusive written content throughout the offseason, whether we're covering the Senior Bowl or the Combine or free agency or the NFL draft. Adam Johns, Adam Hogue, Mark Carman, Patrick Norton, they're all going to be on the written side of things. But we also have our All-City draft expert, Fran Duffy, who has already started an inventory of all the different draft options you're going to want to look at. And he's been hammering that home since the start of the college football season. So you can already get your database in check and see in an itemized way who the Bears should be looking at different positions and skill sets. So it's a great opportunity. $36 for the year right now. Take advantage of the playoff deal that we still have up on our site until it goes away. Want to take care of that now? You get a free shirt as soon as you sign up. We've got some really good ones that just dropped here recently. The Iceman collection. You got the CHGO football. You got the great one, and it's always FGB. So you got some different options to choose from with our new shirts and new designs. You get a free shirt. You get discounts on any future purchase on merchandise. You get the exclusive written content. You get discounts on our events. Yes, our tailgates are over. Shout out to everybody that came out to our tailgates this year. But we're going to have a draft party here coming up in a few months. We got some special things planned for the summer. Become a diehard, support what we do, and we're going to make sure we give it back to you tenfold. We appreciate you always. All right, we are back here on CHGO Bears After Dark. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Thanks for hanging out here on a tough Monday as the season comes to an end. But we are 35 days away from the NFL Combine. We are 51 days away from NFL free agency. we are 94 days away from the NFL draft. Still a ways to go for training camp in week 1. But those 3 are on the periphery. I mean, the Senior Bowl will be starting here very soon, right? That hits you before you know it, especially when, we haven't been accustomed to it the last few years, but going this deep in the playoffs, the Senior Bowl is like next week. So there's evaluation already taking place. There's movement going on around the NFL. And in that regard, the biggest news coming out of the NFC North today, let's start with what happened with Green Bay. They lose their defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley, who now becomes the head coach, reportedly, to the Miami Dolphins. So is there a trickle-down effect of a potential that Al Harris, the Bears secondary coach, a former defensive back of Green Bay, and certainly has a really good reputation around the league, at least in some circles, does he make the move over to back over to his team that he played for? In the Bears regard, Eric Bieniemy is now reportedly going to go back to becoming the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs as Matt Nagy looks to become the head coach elsewhere. On how that is transpiring, I'll never know. But regardless, there is a trickle-down effect that's taking place, and a really great running backs coach and a guy that held that room to a level of accountability is now reportedly going to be moving on. So, Shayne, there's going to be a lot of poaching this year, and I think as Bears fans, we're all kind of holding on for dear life because when you're a good team, this is part of the territory. It doesn't always happen that first year, right? And there's a potential that you could lose Al Harris. You could maybe even lose Declan Doyle if somebody really wants to get rogue. You could lose Antoine Randall potentially to the Pittsburgh Steelers. You never know. And now you're losing Eric Bieniemy. They had to beg Dan Rochar to come out of retirement. Are they going to be able to continue to keep him on? Let's hope so. But, this is the tough time of year for the Bears coaching staff because you want to keep as many guys as you have because they did such a fantastic job.
100%. And what you have to do, you have to just pump the brakes a little bit and realize how all of this works. And you have to realize if you back up to last year at this time, it was around the 20th or 25th when we signed Ben Johnson to be our, new head coach. Ben Johnson didn't get all of the guys that he initially wanted on his staff. That's just the way that the NFL cycle works. Guys get hired before Ben was the head coach or they don't become available. And now there's guys that are going to be available that Ben was very likely connected to last year. And I think you'll see some turnover. Not probably any of the big positions. I mean, if I'll be honest, this isn't going to be, people aren't going to be super stoked about this take. If Antoine Randall is the next head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm completely fine with it. I have a lot of question marks there just with fundamental issues with some of the wide receivers that have showed up consistently game after game after game after game that are a problem for me. And I know Phil can talk about it even better than I can, but there's going to be some consistency there. And he's going to, like I said, when we talk about this roster, how there's going to be change, there's going to be some change on it with the coaching staff. Also, I know, just like Buffalo, I don't think anybody expected Aaron Kromer to announce his retirement, and then the head coach goes, but it's the nature of the business in the NFL. Ben has his list. Ryan Poles has his list. They're ready to go, and you'll probably see them hire a new running backs coach, like you said, at the Senior Bowl. That's usually where all that happens.
Well, and that's the big thing, right? Is Phil that this year it feels like there are more vacancies than there normally is, and not just vacancies, some premier destinations. The New York Giants haven't been a good franchise here for a while, but they have a bright future. We talk about a bright future with the Bears. They have a bright future with Jackson Dart and Cam Scatteraboo and Malik Neighbors and, some really talented players on that defensive side of the ball. Then you have, an open vacancy with the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson, a 2-time MVP. Sean McDermott gets fired from the Buffalo Bills. And now here's Josh Allen just sitting there, for somebody to walk into that organization and a quarterback that hasn't gotten over the mountain, that certainly I think should show Bears fans how hard it is to win a Super Bowl. But at the same time, a guy that consistently gets to the dance and gives himself a shot. So there's so many opportunities out there. Never mind a team like the Raiders, who are going to have a top pick, potentially have a swing at the bat at a guy like Mendoza, who's going to be playing here tonight for Indiana in the national championship, to go along with Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers. So there's a lot of really great options for coaches out there. But then the problem with that is they need to fill their coaching staffs. And who are you going to look to? A team like the Bears, who have been lauded for some really outstanding coaching done this season.
Yeah, you're going to get turnover. I just, the head coach is the key. Yep. I always say that. And the offensive line coach is number 2. Those are the 2 most important. Then your defensive coordinator, he's staying here unless somehow he gets involved in head coaching interviews again. I don't see it either.
You don't become a 3-time head coach very often in the NFL.
Exactly. So,
especially as a defensive coach in this day and age.
Yeah.
But he did do a fantastic job. So you kind of have to worry about that a little bit. But to your point, that would not be the norm.
Yes, I would be shocked. Good for him. Then you move Al Harris up. I don't think Al would go back to the Packers in my feelers on that. I think there's natural, real hate towards that staff. And I think Al is a part of that too. I don't think he likes what LaFleur stands for and how he handles himself. The Packer fans went out of their way, the Karen fans, to paint Ben as a bad guy, when the authenticity of the room is the locker room, and you're sharing that, and the rivalry is back. And, oh, by the way, we won the NFC North, and we knocked you out of the playoffs in spectacular, legendary fashion. You're a little butthurt. That's all that is. The reality is, you've taken your shots and said your stuff. So I just don't know. I don't think that's going to happen, or you should be worried. But Al Harris could be going to the Ravens or something. I know that he's a well-respected. He was my favorite signing for Ben Johnson, because I know what a teacher he is. So that would be a tough loss, but you got the head coach.
Well, the one thing that I have heard with Al Harris is that it's from people in Dallas, that it's because they have an open vacancy for the defensive coordinator with Matt Eberflus being fired. And he, in a lot of Cowboys fans' opinion, they felt like he should have been the person to be elevated as the DC when they hired a new head coach last year, and Brian Schottenheimer, and that didn't happen. But from my understanding, I think Ed Werder, who's been as connected as anyone in Dallas for 40 years, put out there that there's a soured relationship with Al Harris in Dallas. So that would be an unlikely return in that regard. So the one thing I will say to your point, obviously, I think you're 100% right. And I think it does kind of go without saying, like, how important it is when the Bears have looked of who to hire as a head coach, to have your offensive play caller and your person that is in the position of growing the offense and the quarterback. That's your guy as your head coach. You look at what happened on the other side. Sean McVay has the most playoff wins of a head coach under 40 years old. Like, you have to have a great young offensive mind in this day and age. You look at the Kyle Shanahans of the world. You look at the Kevin O'Connells. You look at Sean McVay now here with Ben Johnson. To have that guy as your head coach guarantees you a level of stability that other teams don't have. When you look at the Commanders, they're getting rid of Cliff Kingsbury. It sounded like Jane Daniels didn't want that to happen. Now they're starting over with a whole new offense. We've been down this road with Jay Cutler. As talented as he was, he had a different offensive coordinator every year, and that continuity never came to pass and was part of the reason why those teams weren't successful. And I wish, had I known we were really going to dive deep into the weeds on this discussion, I would have pulled up our interview with Cole Kmet a few weeks ago when he revealed that he had never had a head coach that and Phil, you might have to help me out with this because it was a couple weeks ago and how he framed it, but Cole said that Ben Johnson scripts the runs during the week. Like he's your run game coordinator during the week. And like other coaching staffs, you know, we've had even last year with Matt Eberflus and Shayne Waldron, they like assign all these roles for different people where it was like, no, Cole was like, no, Ben is the one dictating how we're going to run.
Cole said he'd never had that anywhere. Yeah.
Right.
Before.
So,
Yeah.
like, so losing to that point, losing Eric Bieniemy, certainly a tough blow, and a guy that, you know, had a strong voice in that locker room and on that practice field. I witnessed that firsthand. But in terms of the game script, and that was what Cole said, and how they were going to script the run game, Ben Johnson was the one deciding that every week. And as you said, Shayne, while that's good for stability, Ben is going to be looking in the mirror on how he was scripting that run game here in the second half of the season.
Yeah, you heard Chris Collinsworth last night talk about it. How many times did he say the Bears just continue to keep on running the ball to the right side? It's at one point, what was it, 11 out of 14 times or 14 out of 16? I forget exactly what the numbers were, but listen, my faith in Ben Johnson, the head coach, is I'm not down on him. I don't think he was perfect, but to Phil's point, what James Jones said, this is the worst iteration of Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams that you're ever going to see, you know, minus injuries or something like that. It's just, you know, I think that the Bears are in a very, very good spot, and it's going to be very interesting, man, because I think Bears fans, again, like I said, I think they're going to be in for a surprise, because I think that there's going to be some extensions that players or that the fans aren't expecting and don't really like to rework money. There's going to be restructures, because as you're standing right now, and I know I'm going off on a tangent here a little bit, but I think it's critical as we move into the offseason. If you're looking at Jalen Johnson, DJ Moore, and Montez Sweat, if you're saying that you're not moving off of those guys, which is a whole different, you know, ball of wax, but if you're restructuring to free up money, just with those three guys like that, at the snap of a finger, you create $50 million in cap space just with those three.
Right.
And it's very easy, workable deals for them to do.
Yeah, and that's going to be the question, and that's kind of where I wanted to take this with you guys as we're getting close to reaching the top of the hour, so we'll have to take a quick second to hit that overtime here in a couple minutes. But that is what we're looking at, right? It is, you know, these decisions that they have to make, and I had the list in front of me of different players, you know, and they have some big decisions here coming up, and I certainly have my thoughts on it, but I wanted to hear your guys' as well of all these different players, especially on the defensive side of the ball. You've got Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker, two safeties. Both your starting safeties are free agents this year.
All of your safeties are.
All of your safeties.
Even
correct.
Your backups, yes.
Even your backups, that's right. Yeah. And, you know, Jonathan Owen. So, like, how they make these decisions, as you guys said, Jaquan Brisker had an unbelievable, you know, 2-game playoff stretch here, trying to, I guess, finish strong and certainly playing for some money, right? That's a big part of that too. And then you have other guys that came in out of nowhere this year, and Nashawn Wright, who's maybe set to have a pretty decent payday, at least based off of the career that he's had so far, you know, in the NFL. And then you had CJ Gardner-Johnson, who really breathed life into this team after they lost to the Ravens, and they went on a little bit of a run with him and Kyler Gordon out. You saw both of them on the field in run blitzes pass, you know, blitzing last night and get to the quarterback. DeMarco Jackson, somebody, Phil, that you were banging the table.
Lost 3 sign.
Right. Then you got to make the decision at left tackle. Everybody understands the task at hand for the defensive line. Are you going to give Darnell Wright a big-time contract for everything he's done as a right tackle? So there's a lot of different things, you know, for this team to look at. And so before we get to your answers on what some of those things are, do want to quickly remind all of you guys that as we reach to the top of the hour. Thank you once again for all your support throughout the season, whether it was subscribing to the channel, tuning into this show, becoming a diehard, coming to our tailgates, or just hitting the like button. Any of those things just go such a long way. These guys will tell you the same thing of trying to grow a channel and build a community. Those little things, putting your chats here in the chat, even if you're, Paul, and you're trying to tell me how to do my job in the middle of the show, it is appreciated because you're tuning in, and I appreciate that. So that being said, we have officially reached overtime here on CHGO Bears After Dark. All right, Paul, that was called a setup to overtime, and now I will let Phil and Shayne have the floor for all of these different moves I kind of laid at the table. And I know, Shayne, you're always thinking 5 steps ahead in this regard. So you mentioned a few to clear cap space. But, Phil, where do you kind of stand on some of this stuff? Because there's a lot of decisions to be made.
Well, my head is in a vortex of what just happened. So I asked the question to you both here and the chat. Can this team move forward with DJ Moore? That's
Shayne, I don't really see how you get rid. Who's banging the door down for a guy that I think is due like $30 million next year?
Yeah, but it's so let me bring it up here just real quick.
He did not speak today to the media again. He bounced out last night.
If you trade DJ Moore before June 1st, you have a dead cap number of 12 million, which is digestible. You save 16.5 on the cap. If you do a post June 1st trade, you have a dead cap number of 4 million, but it also pushes another 8 million of dead cap into 2027. But that gives you a cap savings of 24.5 million in 2026. So the way that you have to look at that is, so DJ's at 28.5 million in terms of a cap hit. As bad as that sounds, it's not ridiculous, but you have to look around at teams. You look at a team like Tennessee, you look at a team like the New York Giants, you look at a team with the Raiders, right? That listen, you have to do the DJ Moore move that the Bears did in 2023 to bring in an established vet that isn't 34 years old. You know what I mean? To bring some validity to the room. Now, can it happen? 100%. I was very, very upset with DJ Moore, and Greg, before Phil got here, you and Adam and I were talking offline a little bit. This isn't just a last night thing with DJ Moore. This has showed up quite often with him. Some routes just giving up on. Some routes you're going 35, 40%, maybe 60%. The NFL, that doesn't work. That is not sustainable.
Yeah.
The thing about it is where we're in different territory with the Bears is you have Luther Burden. You have a Roma Dunze. You have to put Colston Loveland into that. Cole Kmet, people can say whatever they want. Cole Kmet is going to get a contract extension here in Chicago. He's going to. They're going to. I wholeheartedly believe.
And help explain, because I've been trying to make this point. I've been a little ahead of this the last couple months as fans have been trying to.
They're going to extend him out and bring his number down to the role that he's in. He's not going to be the feature piece. I mean, when you got to give Cole a lot of credit. He's a hometown kid, grew up a Chicago Bears fan, got drafted by his hometown team, and he's out there.
Did you hear his interview with Jason McKee after the game?
I did not hear that, but I was referring to the when he was on with Hogan Johns, when he called Colston Loveland the best catcher of the football at tight end in the league. Now, unfortunately, the game that Colston followed up after that, it didn't. But there's going to be a lot of moves, like I was saying. I've been a DeAndre Swift supporter. Would I be completely shocked if Ben Johnson earmarked a guy that he likes or loves that he's pounding the table for if the Bears moved off of DeAndre Swift? I wouldn't be shocked at all. And I mean, I can give you those numbers if you want them. Let me bring.
Does he have 1 year left on his deal, Swift?
Yeah, so DeAndre Swift, and I don't even believe he's 27 years old yet. But so a DeAndre Swift deal, if you trade him, his dead cap number 2026 is 1.333 million. 2026 cap savings of 7.5. Just an outright release. You have 1.8 in dead cap in 2026 and a cap savings of 7 million. So both are on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
really. And to Phil's point, I think as much as I love Kenneth Walker, you see Charbonnet went down with a catastrophic knee injury, and when you have $72 million in available cap space, and you very well could be the representative for the NFC in the Super Bowl. Are they going to walk away from a guy like that? And we don't know who Ben Johnson has in mind. Like I said, would I be shocked if DeAndre Swift is here? No, I wouldn't be. Would I be shocked if they move off of him? That's one of those guys that I think it's 100% on the table with them. And I mean, Tremaine Edmonds, it's $15 million.
He's gone.
It's gone. Gotta be
terrible. If we're playing the game, Greg, DeMarco Jackson is a must resign. Kevin Byard must.
DeMarco
resign.
Jackson I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. Fantastic player. I still believe that there's upside there for him as a starter.
Totally fits Dennis Allen.
It's a non-factor financially. He's not going to move the needle one bit financially for you.
He's a fabric player beyond, though. I feel like his ceiling is way higher. The way he plays that game, man, he has instincts and speed, and he's tough. I really like that football.
And the
player.
hard part is how does TJ Edwards return from a pretty tough ankle injury, right? And so
that was a tough one because Ryan Poles extended him
right, and so he's not going anywhere. But then the real question is, what is his availability going into the season? I don't know. I'm genuinely asking. I don't know how long that recovery table is for that ankle injury. How much can he get back to form? So you've got two decisions there with linebacker, just like you got two decisions at safety.
You got three decisions because you got to cut Tremaine Edmonds.
Somebody's talking about extending Tremaine Edmonds. I just don't you could save money technically by doing that, but what is the upside there for your team? I mean, at this point,
he's hustling in this game, Greg, if Tremaine Edmonds is playing this game with his hair on fire and had football acumen, that tip ball, and he's running over, he intercepts that. Mike Brown is over there intercepting it half his speed. The next guy, DeMarco Jackson, comes and plays that tight end so well, tips the ball, tips it again,
dive,
and it goes. All you got to do is dive, run it, and dive. If he's sprinting, he probably just catches it. He had a moment where moving to Will linebacker was like, okay, he can't read. All right, guard blocks down and they're comboing. I got to hit B gap quick. He's standing there and his drops, don't get me going. It's too much for people to understand.
And what's great is and stay tuned for updates on how we're going to do programming here through the offseason, but we're still going to be doing After Darks. We're still going to be doing CHGO Bears and brick by brick, but there are some things we have to work out internally to figure out how that programming will come to you through the offseason, leading up to the draft, after the draft, etc. But that being said, what I'm trying to say is we will have plenty of shows here coming up where we're going to really dial into some of these conversations. But I do think it's healthy to kind of get the early prognostications on some of this stuff. And so when you talk about all the decisions in the secondary, from the safeties to your corners, and I know you guys have been proponents of like, hey, maybe they need to look into moving on from Jalen Johnson. I know there's a lot of fans out there that would not like that. And I love you too, Paul. I was just giving you a hard time. You know me. Anybody that watches these shows knows I go at the chat. But
that's our guy Apple fan from back in the day, Phil.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. But regardless.
Straight from Brooklyn.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, you
librarian.
have Kevin Byard, you have Jaquan Brisker, you have CJ Gardner Johnson, you've got you've got Nashawn Wright. And so like to me, I think it starts with Kevin Byard. And it sounds like 100%. He wants to return.
He is a leader. He is a stabilizer. He's got great football acumen. You look at that play where it was 4th and 1 and Puka Nacua gets that jet sweep.
Yeah.
He's there to fill. The other clowns aren't even understanding football. Like I think it's Edmonds again. He gets sucked in and somebody else misses the tackle in the backfield. And there's Byard filling and wrapping, for Byard's warts, which are some, he should have made a great diving interception. I thought he could have caught that ball, but he is just too valuable as an emotional locker room, just
I agree.
Presence. That kind of stability isn't necessary.
I agree with
Brisker having these great games, to what you said, Greg, credit to you. I don't want guys that are motivated by money alone. I want guys that are motivated by the game. I loved Brisker coming out. He's someone I would move on from. I'm not going to pay him heavy money for I don't love the game.
Well, and I give him a lot of credit. I mean, the biggest question this year was, could he play a whole season? And he did that. He didn't just play 17 games. He played 19 games. And so that was a big thing for him, for just his personal career, to prove to the Bears or prove to teams that he could be reliable in that regard. And we learned this year, you can be as talented as you want. Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, TJ Edwards, whoever, you can't stay on the football field. It doesn't do any good. So Jaquan was out there whether he has flaws in his game or not, he was out there every single game day. I would say the next person on my list of when you go through all these different decisions, to me, CJ Gardner Johnson has to be brought back to this. He brings so much to the table, and he's honestly somebody that can play safety too.
And I think you can bring him back on a 1-year deal.
I like him at safety.
He's a guy that sat out there for a long time, and listen, he's got warts to his game. He's got, there was some other issues why teams moved on from him, but he seemed to fit Chicago. He seemed to fit this culture.
And he's got the Dennis Allen familiarity.
I like him 100%. Where you said, Greg, his move to safety with a healthy Gordon and Byard is an upgrade to Brisker.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Byard at all. He's coming back. And somebody asked in the chat.
What I loved hearing from him today too, and this is the tone that I want from this team, was like, yeah, I want to return because I want to finish the job. And that's going to be the big thing. Is, again, we're going to talk about all these moves here throughout the offseason and what the Bears should do, this, that, and the other. But ultimately, I think the biggest thing for this team's success in the immediate for next year, because I think over the next 10 years, they're going to be good more times than not, just based off of the coaching staff they have and the quarterback they have. But how do they take this year and get to the top? Very reminiscent of Russell Wilson in his rookie year, where they get to the divisional playoffs, get on the doorstep of going to an NFC Championship, lose to the Falcons 30-28, and then the next year they finish the job and get all the way to the Super Bowl and win the whole damn thing. How do you duplicate that kind of script? Well, they've got to have a reset of a mentality, but also a not being satisfied, not sitting here this summer and resting on your laurels. And to hear Kevin Byard come out today and say immediately, they're like, I want to come back because I want to finish the job. It's gonna, and Cole Kmet said it as soon as the game was over as well, like, hey, next year's going to be a whole new thing, and it's not promised to us, and we're going to have to work twice as hard if we want to get it. And so a lot of fans will point to teams that didn't have that, year the next year where they built off of it and then fell off the map. But as Adam Rank pointed out, who's such a great, I think knowledge of historian of teams and their journey. He brought up some different teams that I think are easy to point to, including the Detroit Lions, who win on that 4-year run with Ben Johnson as their offensive coordinator. So I feel good about the Bears' chances going forward, even with a tough NFC North division that they have there. So, all right. Well, I think that wraps things up. We're inching closer to the national championship, and I wanted to do this show a little early today so everyone, including you guys, could enjoy that game. And, I was hoping this was going to be a Victory Monday show, but now that it isn't, I think it's also, we all can go back to our families and enjoy a night and try to reset after a really, really special season. So appreciate everyone tuning in. We will continue off-season coverage. And shout out to Adam Rank for joining as well and all the support he's given this season. But these two guys are my brothers, and I'm excited to continue to do off-season content with these guys because no one does it better, in my opinion, than these two in terms of the draft. I mean, for those of you that may or may not know, and if you don't, you're living under a rock in terms of Bears content, but we call Phil Ottochian Draft Dr. Phil, for Christ's sake. I mean, that is how obsessed these two are with the draft. And when I first met them, it blew my mind how much I'm already moved on to Purdue basketball. I won a national championship. These guys, they live, breathe, eat, and sleep the NFL draft, the Chicago Bears. And so I'm excited to share this platform with them here this offseason, and you guys are going to get to see what they're all about in terms of their coverage in that regard. But that also means that you have to subscribe to their channel at the Tape Never Lies Network, because they're going to give you some breadcrumbs here. They'll throw you a little bit of the meat here on our show, but they do a lot of work on their own right as well, and I don't want to take anything away from that. But we've got a lot of draft coverage, a lot of free agency coverage, a lot of off-season coverage, big moves to be made for the Chicago Bears here going forward as they try to climb to the top of the mountain and get that elusive Super Bowl that we're all waiting for here in Chicago. So thank you again, Phil and Shayne, as always, and appreciate all your hard work this season. It was a lot of fun and a really special year. So for my Midwestern goodbye, once again, thank you to the chat. Thank you to Adam Rank. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, enjoy the national championship, and just stay tuned. And we'll be back tomorrow on CHGO Bears at 1 p.m. Central. But as I always say to end shows, keep your head up and always bear down.
Bear down.
We all silly like the mayor.